In this video, I'll reveal the top 5 countries in Europe for achieving financial independence and retiring early. And again, of course, crucially, if you are from Northern Europe, if you are from Denmark, in this video, I'll be telling you how does Denmark fit in this as well. And I'll be judging each of the countries on a few key factors. What are the salaries and cost of living? How are the investment taxes and the investment opportunities? And at the end of the day, what is the quality of life? Because what's the point of achieving financial independence and retiring early if you can't really enjoy the place you live? So let's dive in. If you're new here, my name is Mario, and on this channel I help people living in Europe to achieve and strive and work towards financial independence, giving you a lot of strategies and tactics to achieve that. Number 5 on the list is Portugal, and Portugal is the rising star of European fire because Portugal offers a unique value proposition, and I want to highlight a few key points. Number 1 are the tax advantages. So there's a setup called NHR, so the non-habitual resident setup in Portugal, that gives you basically a 20% flat tax for 10 years on your income. And that's if you have an income in Portugal. If you have a foreign source of income, that's tax-free under this scheme. There's also no wealth tax and there's no crypto gains tax, which again makes it a very enticing proposition for a lot of people, especially if you have income coming from abroad, as it could be, for example, being a digital nomad. Second thing is the cost arbitrage. Portugal is a cheap place to live, so the cost of living in Portugal are, comparing to Northern Europe, 60 to 70% lower, and even more if you are outside of the big cities like Lisbon or Porto. I mean, housing is very affordable, to the point that if you look in the statistics in Umbeo, like it's a statistics website, it says that a family of 4, basically you can live really well, excluding rent, for an average of 2,000 euro. Again, living a good life there. And again, there's a growing tech scene, there's a lot of remote work opportunities, and it's becoming a digital nomad hub. The third thing I want to highlight about Portugal, and it's very crucial to fire, is there's really good investment incentives. There's a 20% tax on capital gains if you are part of this NARH scheme, but if not, it's 28%, which is still very reasonable. There's no inheritance tax for direct family. There's a strong real estate appreciation, so in case you have bought in real estate, I think it's like 80% in the last decade. And there's a chance, if you're not from Europe, to also apply for a golden visa, which again, if you're from Europe, you don't really likely need, but I mean, it's also nice to have. And the last thing about Portugal, which is basically key, is the quality of life piece. You have 300 plus days of sunshine, a lot of coastline. It's ranked among the safest countries globally. English is spoken in a lot of places, and again, it's a friendly place to be. So at the end of the day, it's a really good thing. When it comes to the drawbacks, again, the local job market is significantly weaker than the other countries you'll see on the list. So it's more if you're coming from income from abroad or have a really good deal. But it's not a place where you'll go and find a job in an office in Portugal and you can really live an amazing fire-focused life. So where does Portugal stand in terms of the fire score? I would give it an 8 out of 10 because it's great for if you have a digital nomad setup or you have income from abroad or you're already enabled yourself a lot of wealth and you just want to work towards the very end. So again, on top of that, with a great cost of living and very nice quality of life, is a really good place to be. Number 4 on the list is Luxembourg. And Luxembourg is in the wealthy heart of Europe. It's a very small country, but again, it packs a lot of punch, and that's why it's on this list. Number 1 is the income potential. So within the EU, Luxembourg has the highest average salary. So that's 5,600 euros as of the moment I'm recording this video. The average salary, again, very high. If you are working in finance, your salaries, or if you work in the big companies that there are many setting up shop in Luxembourg, you can easily earn more than 100,000 euros a year. Again, there's a lot of EU institutions as well with good jobs and a lot of benefits. I read the statistics saying that household savings for, again, across the population in Luxembourg average over 22%, which is very high. There are, of course, tax advantages as well. So that's the second thing I want to highlight. There's 0% capital gains after 6 months of holding whatever you bought. There's no wealth tax. There's no, again, inheritance tax for direct descendants. And you can get dividends tax-free up to 1,500 euros yearly. So again, in terms of investment, this is amazing. It's also Luxembourg in a strategic location, so you are really close to Belgium, to France, to Germany, so you can literally be living in those places as well and arbitrage that. So basically get a Luxembourg salary and Luxembourg situation while having lower living costs. There's free public transportation in the whole country, again, it's a small country, and again, it's a good place to be. In terms of quality of life as well, when it comes to Luxembourg, it's clean, it's safe, it's very multilingual, it's a very expat society, again 47% foreign residents, or that's what I heard. Excellent healthcare, and again a very good work-life balance. The main drawback, of course, is that it's a wealthy place, hence to enter in the housing market, it's tight. So if you want to buy a house in Luxembourg, you can start up to 1.5 million for an average house in Luxembourg, which is a steep price. I would give Luxembourg a fire score of 8.5, so it's better than Portugal, and that is because, again, you have really good incentives for investment while at the same time having a really good local market for jobs. So it's a really good place to be. Number 3 is the United Kingdom. So the UK is also a very strong place for FIRE. It's not part of the European Union, but it's still part of Europe. So this video is about Europe as a whole. The UK offers a few key advantages for people that are looking for FIRE. First are the investment benefits. So there's something called the ISA allowance that gives you 20,000 tax-free investing earnings per year, which is a decent amount of money when it comes to like investing. There's pension advantages if you do something called SIP, so CIPP. There's a very active stock market. There's a strong fintech sector which has really a lot of more benefits that you would have, for example, Denmark where I live. So it's a good place for investing as a whole. Then of course you can earn good money in UK. So there's very high salaries in London. Again, in the tech sector, salaries are especially high. There are lower income taxes than in most of Europe. Again, there's a lot of incentives for the financial sector, and it's becoming also a remote work hub, not as much as Portugal, but it is becoming in that way as well. One of the things I also want to highlight about the UK is that if you got the chance to jump into the property market, you would do generally pretty well. There's home appreciation of over 7% over the last 20 years, which is really high. There's a lot of buy-to-let opportunities. There are investment options with real estate beyond this, and the interest on the mortgages, you can also get a relief on this as well. In terms of quality of life, if you live in a place like London, it's probably the most fun city in Europe when it comes to cultural life and things going on. There's good private healthcare options on top of the free stuff from the government. Very international environment. Of course, English if you don't need to meld in Danish society. And again, very solid place. When it comes to drawbacks, of course, there's a bit of uncertainty after Brexit. UK as a whole economy is not doing amazing. And people mention some challenges with the national healthcare system. I would give the UK a score of 8.5 as well. And again, I think UK would be also catering for a subset of people, those who can actually have a really high-flying career. If you're working in finance, if you're working in tech, if you're working in consulting or banking on the top excellence, this is the place to be in Europe for a lot of things as well. And again, combine this with the tax advantages you can have and the cool life you can live in London or other places in UK potential as well. This is a really good place to be as well. Number 2 on the list, also outside of the EU, is Norway. And Norway is the oil-rich Nordic powerhouse that basically offers you a very unique path to financial independence. Number 1 is the income and stability. So the salaries in Norway are high. So the median salary is around 4,800 euros per month. And again, that can be a lot higher depending on what is your position or on what you're working on. The country is super stable, and it has an oil fund that is basically worth $1.5 trillion or some crazy number like that, which is basically the largest sovereign wealth fund, more than Qatar, more than Saudi Arabia. It's a lot of money. The government, again, doesn't have any debt because of this. Very stable economy, and again, it's a very good setup you can have over there. You could say something similar, sans the oil, for Denmark and for Sweden, but one thing that makes Norway special is that unlike those countries, it has a really nice setup for investing. So there's a 22% flat capital gains tax, which is the lowest in the Nordics, much lower than Denmark. You have also setups for tax efficient investing, like a TS Parekonto, which is similar name as the one in Denmark as well. Very strong property rights, and you also have a very good stock market as well. On top of this, Norway is a great place for work-life balance, like it is in the whole of Scandinavia. You have 5 weeks paid vacation, sometimes more, strong labor protections. There's the culture of overtime doesn't exist there too much compared to other places. So again, you can actually have a lot of time for yourself. And again, if you even have kids there's up to 49 weeks of full pay. Again, depending on a lot of different factors, right? But it's a really good place to be. So if you want to be in Norway, you can actually get high salaries and also this really nice work-life balance situation. On top of this, there's a strong safety net. There's universal healthcare, free education, including university, strong pension system. And again, while the government doesn't take all the money from the oil fund, or a little bit maybe sometimes, it's again, that they will not have to tax people like crazy in the coming years to just live off in the future. The drawback, of course, is you do have still high taxes and living costs can be very high, but again, you can offset this by salaries and social benefits. And again, one thing that I want to highlight about Norway as a drawback as well, the weather is terrible in many places. You have cities like Bergen where, though beautiful, sometimes it rains for 2 or 3 months in a row. If you want to see the sun, maybe it's not the best place in Europe to be. I would give Norway a score of 9 out of 10 because again, if you want to go for the slow type of financial independence approach where you want to basically be a normal person with a normal job and then be 40, 50 and be able to retire without having to have your ass off during many, many years, this is a good place because again, the work-life balance is there, while at the same time you can actually save a lot of money and you're not taxed like crazy for your investments. And that leads us to number 1, one, which is Switzerland. Surprise, with Switzerland is the gold standard for wealth building in Europe, and again, makes it to the top of the list for a lot of good reasons. Number one is the income potential. So Swiss salaries are the highest in Europe by a lot of money as well. So the median salary is 6,000 euros, but again, people working in finance, people working in tech often pay double that or more. So according to UBS, Zurich and Geneva are ranked as number one and number two globally for purchasing power, despite their very high living costs, which again are the highest in Europe as well. In terms of investments as well, Switzerland has 0% tax on capital gains for private investors. There's no wealth tax in most of the cantons. There's a strong banking system, Swiss banks after all, a lot of investment options, and you actually have a very strong currency in the Swiss franc as well. The tax situation is also very good comparing to Europe. So like the effective income tax rate for example, if you earn 100k a year in Swiss francs, that's around 22%, which is a lot lower than the EU average. You have a complex situation with these cantons, but again, it's generally good, and there are many tax deductions that are available. And on top of this, you say, okay, you earn well, but you also have a really good quality of life. Healthcare is good, excellent public services, nature is, you're basically stuck in the Alps, which is amazing. Clean and safe cities are there. The main drawback, of course, is the cost of living is comparing to other places extreme. A small apartment in Zurich can cost you 2,500 francs per month, but that's again maybe even at the bottom of the pack. But with Swiss salaries, you can still save aggressively. And of course, I think the work culture, from what I hear from friends in Switzerland, it's not as worker friendly as you can actually see perhaps in somewhere like Norway. But again, still, it's Europe, it's still a nice place to be. And the score for Switzerland will also be 9 or 9.5, you could even say, out of 10. And again, the reason for this, again, very high income, very good investment setup where you basically don't pay any capital gains. You are in a beautiful place that is safe, clean, and everything well. And again, very few drawbacks against that. And where does Denmark stand? So a lot of my viewers come from Denmark in Northern Europe as well, and I have not put Denmark in the top 5, and I want to explain you why. I think that Denmark, again, despite being one of the world's happiest countries, and despite being a great place in many ways, I would only give it a 6 out of 10 of fire potential, and here's why. So there are really good things going for Denmark. First are the high salaries. So the median is around 44,000 Danish krona per month, which is very high. You have excellent work-life balance, so you can basically be a manager in a big company as I am, and actually build as a hustle as I do here, and travel a lot and have kids and spend a lot of time with them, which is perfect. There's a very strong safety net, and there's certain tax advantages if you are very smart playing, for example, with the housing market. There are high taxes to own a place, but the sale of your primary home is tax-free. So if you have been really lucky on your homes, from home to home, you can actually earn a lot of money on that as well. But there are some challenges. So Denmark has the world's highest investment taxes, from 27 to 42%. And if that is already something bad, to make things a lot worse, Denmark has a unique setup where they tax you on unrealized gains. So at the end of the day, you need to pay at the end of the month for most things in Denmark, for most of the index funds, ETFs, tax on how did your stocks do through the year, even you didn't sell. And that's basically terrible. Of course, you will have an income tax that is up to 52%. And of course, if you want to build wealth and have to pay half of your wealth to the state, and then half of your investment gains or whatever you have left to the state, that's going to be really hard to achieve financial independence. I think Denmark is fantastic to build a fulfilling and happy life and a very balanced life, and you can slowly achieve FIRE. But if you want to achieve wealth faster, you're likely much better to be in these other 5 countries. So that's it for the top 5 in Europe. Let me know in the comments if I missed any other country, or if you have another really good place to recommend for FIRE. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.